The last video that I posted was a bit down, and this is my epilogue. This is still bipolar brilliance. I'm still me, Rosemary Bach Lowry. I'm a mom, a health educator, not a doctor. I'm a person with lived recovery, ongoing, with bipolar disorder. And my last video, I was really struggling, and I took a few minutes for myself and just realizing that maybe I'm in a little bit of a down week, but I feel a lot better for a few reasons. Actually, as soon as I stopped my video, I went downstairs and my husband was playing this music that I kind of found to be god awful. It was like Van Halen, and he was singing, somewhat ironically, somewhat, maybe he was actually into it because we're products of the 80s, and it was a great decade for music, by the way. But I come downstairs and I hear it, and I said, "What is Van Halen?" And I shook my head, but I said, "Well, you got me to smile." And our 2-year-old was has had kind of a tough week, and for those that are parents out there, God, has it changed everything to become a parent. Talk about like entering a club that I had no idea, first of all, how amazing it would be, and also challenging at the same time, and just that I get so many things that I never did before. So our son has had kind of a tough, like, fussy week, and I don't know if it's one of those, like, this is like a wonder week or whatever they talk about, or if it was just a reflection of my mood for the week, and or we really didn't spend a lot of time outside this week. It was cold and wet and rainy, and I was preoccupied, and he also so happened to then like get really introduced to lots of cookies. Not me, just for the record. And a lot of screen time, and it was just a perfect storm. I don't know. We don't live in a vacuum. So anyway, I came downstairs and he was kind of just crying about something, and God, I love him more than anything. But I'm human, and I don't really love hearing whiny kids. I'm just gonna keep it real, because it's just you and me talking here. And but because I am learning, like, I don't think parenting is something that we're just born, like, maybe when the baby is like very, very little, small, like all we have to do is just, their cry is how they communicate, and so you jump to it, and you feed them, and you keep them warm, and you keep them loved, and it's easy. But then when they're 2, you don't bend over backwards when they cry and scream, or they end up being really annoying brats. And then when they get older, they don't know how to say no to anything, and they don't have the gift of impulse control. I don't really know what happened when I was 2, but I struggle with impulse control between ADHD and whatever. So, short-term sacrifice, I keep telling myself, for the long run, which means I'm the bad guy sometimes. But also, sometimes it's just being a master of distraction. Clearly, I'm no expert on parenting, but if you're a parent, you are the expert on your kid. That's my opinion, and that's something that I borrowed from someone. So anyway, it kind of made me laugh, right? Because I am the bipolar one. My son is overall very, very upbeat and well adjusted and everything else. And he's crying about something that I could tell was just, I don't know, attention seeking. And so rather than play, it was like he's on this pile of pillows and he came up crying, and then I kind of pushed his legs up, and like he was screaming the one time, and then I pushed his legs up again, and then he was laughing his ass off, giggling. It's like just that shift of mood. It was hilarious to see. It was like, me, I mean, I don't know. Starts young. I'm not putting anything on him, mental health wise. It's just we all go through stuff, no matter what. Which actually makes me think of another topic that I really do want to address soon, which is that, like, more in depth, we are not our diagnoses. Like, it's an ongoing journey for me of, like, there was a journey of, like, getting the diagnosis, and then, like, accepting it, the other people in my life accepting it. Actually, I think they had a harder time initially accepting it than I did, and then me rejecting, like, the whole treatment thing, and then being like, hitting a bottom, and then being like, okay, all right, and succumbing to the old idea of having to take meds for the rest of my life, and and like telling everybody everything, and then like feeling completely discriminated against, or like it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, or maybe I was just that off balance that I was gonna act extra bipolar, or whatever that even means, and then going the other way and not telling anybody anything for fear of repercussions, and then sort of slowly opening up, and then opening up to people that I thought were safe, and then feeling like that claim to create a space of safety, and then feeling like that kind of came back to haunt me and affect me adversely. To just kind of like being quietly who I am, getting into the sober part of recovery has helped me to just be like one whole person, which is another topic. It's about just being like who we are. It's all related. Until now, just feeling like, you know what? I don't even feel like I have anything to lose anymore. And that it's not even about me as the world at large. I'm an Aquarius moon, so I'm a humanitarian at heart. I've got this Aries rising, so sometimes I come off really crass and pushy, but I'm getting it all out of astrology. It's a huge part of my beliefs, my guidance, God, I've been into it since I was 10. Maybe because my sun sign is Libra, and I'm such a Libra, because I have a lot of, I'm like right in the middle of the Libra, and I have a lot of my personal planets in Libra. So when I would just read those sun sign horoscopes, it just resonated so much. And anywho, it's getting late and I just went off on a tangent. So I was saying that basically I am an Aquarius moon, which is also in the 10th house of mine, which is my career. And so my career in some way has to do with helping humanity at large. And also apparently I just learned today that it means I like to talk a lot. Go figure. But I am a hopeless optimist. I said that in the last video. And I always look on the bright side of life. You know, like Monty Python. And Life of Brian. It's like if you're tapped into that source spirit and you listen to, not to like just be head in the clouds and not having your feet on the ground. See earlier video on that. It is possible to have both your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground. And to see the goodness that is happening now. I am grateful for this interweb that keeps us connected even in this time. I'm grateful that I've been able to have some of my hermit time because I'm an introverted extrovert. And so I really love being around people, but man, I love my solitude too. Gotta have both. And this has allowed for that. And this time, which is reflected in the stars, I don't understand if and how it's a science. There's a video to watch on my playlist about that, but for me it's just like it explains so many things, so I choose to believe it, and I don't feel that it is harmful, and it's too uncanny. And my husband will say, like, there's a lot of coincidences. He asked for me to prove to him that astrology is true. I don't know that I could do that. And we still have our free will. But man, I mean, if you just listen to like the weekly astrological weather on Astrology Hub. By the way, I'm not certainly not sponsored or affiliated with any of these podcasts and YouTube channels that I mentioned. I just really appreciate them so much. It's just, there is a major sea change happening underfoot. And these tiny little things like what I'm doing here to what's currently very few people watching, which is probably, I don't know, so much for the better as I attempt to hone my communication skills and make a point in less than 20 minutes. Make some kind of catchy little 30-second, 2-minute video that captures everything in a nutshell. Well, up until that time, I have this forum, and there are others, but not as many as one might think for bipolar disorder, is what I found. And so that's why I felt this is just my choiceless choice to put a voice out there. Yeah, because it's easy to forget. It's easy for me to forget, just to get caught up in the day-to-day and be like, oh, I'm having such a tough time, or I'm anxious, or whatever, adulting. That may or may not even be related at all to having any kind of mental health problems. I forget though, like back in 2008, when I went to my very first shrink appointment, and I was manic and not sleeping and losing touch with reality, and I knew something was off, but I didn't know what. It had the feel of a very kind of spiritual thing to me, but there was also a lot of like, I was aware of kind of almost like obsessive compulsive things with attempting to put controls and structures and cleanliness as well. It was, I think it was my brain's attempt to make sense and like control something when some part of me was spinning out of control. And also, this is an important part of it, is that there was a lot of alcohol and speed, prescribed speed, but way too much prescribed speed involved, and major life changes. Recipe for disaster, regardless. And so when I was being taken to my first psychiatrist appointment, I'd never been to a psychiatrist, just started seeing a therapist a year or two prior. I was very psychonormal growing up. I mean, it wasn't normal, I was weird, but I was psychologically very well adjusted. At least I thought so. I don't know. Anyway, I was like, are they gonna hypnotize me? That's how, I just had no idea. I was just thinking like Sigmund Freud, and didn't he do stuff with hypnosis? Am I gonna get hypnotized and do like some kind of regression into, I had no idea. And even I thought, am I hypnotized right now? Like, that's how I felt. And just all the things that I went through, learning how to manage life with bipolar disorder, taking medications on a schedule, not pulling all-nighters for fun because I could end up maybe in hospital again. Just like really having to take much better care of my body, mind, and spirit. Having to eat, the eating and exercise were kind of always there for me. because I was always like a health nut. But I didn't focus that much on my mental health. So I don't know, until I had to. But I lose perspective of all that now as I just take it for granted as I take my, schedule my next 4 to 6 to 8 week med review. Just, and, know a bunch of lingo about all the different, classes of medications and, thanks to being kind of a med school dropout, having an idea of the mechanisms of actions and the neurotransmitters, and I like to, knowing just enough to be dangerous, but also knowing my own body and knowing how to work with a professional. Right now it's a psychiatric nurse, actually, but prior to that it was psychiatrists and developing rapport and getting respect. Feeling that respect was not always there. Yeah, boy, that was a big tangent. I know if certain people close to me in my life are going to look at this and be like, girl, you should not have posted after you took your sleeping meds. And that's probably true. I was just waiting for a load of clothes to be done to put in the dryer. That's why I'm still up. So I thought I'd put an epilogue out there. And so, I guess the only other sort of point that I had was that with the internet right now, there and following my intuition is what I'm starting to do more as far as what do I choose to tune into. Talk a lot about balance. Obviously, I said I'm a Libra. Like the balance between, like a lot of people in recovery say, oh, you don't want to go in your head alone. You want to stay in that. You don't want to stay in that neighborhood. That's a rough neighborhood to go in all by yourself, right? Like in other words, if I'm just isolating with my own thoughts all day long, and all week and month and all the time, then it's gonna end up kind of ugly, right? I'm gonna ruminate, I'm gonna obsess, I'm gonna have like this itty bitty shitty committee living in my head, the inner critic, and that's saying you're not good enough and blah blah blah, and then like the worry wart and all this not to mention like the addict and everything else, right? It's just like the monster that dares to be awakened. Okay, but because I'm an extrovert, I can go to the other end and just like, and I love to learn, right? And I get a little bit extreme about things, so it's like, I'm gonna listen to all the podcasts, I'm gonna sign up for all the free webinars and just, yep, sign me up. And it's too much. Everyone's got these great pitches. There's all these great people. I get, all these different emails, and then it's too much. And then sometimes it feeds into my not enoughness because I'm like, oh man, I can't even keep up with these. And so, but it's really about the mental shift, that I can just be like, okay, that's there as an option, and I don't have to read those emails. I don't have to click on those links. I don't have to listen to those podcasts. I don't have to listen to the whole podcast. And yet, like, if I'm like too much in my own head, I can like when I was doing laundry a moment ago, something popped up in my email from Lisa Nichols. She's really awesome. I'm just really discovering her this year, and so I said, well, I'm gonna look on Spotify and see, there's some little 12-minute motivational speech about I can do this. And I'm like, yeah, I need to listen to that. And it was great. And just so many of the things that she was saying were like things that have been in my head today, even things that I've said in my video in the last day or two. And then it got me upon this other, the Mind Valley podcast, and that's another really great ambition. I follow him on Instagram. I get some of his emails. I've taken a couple classes. Really want to read Buddha and the Badass, but it's it's on my list, as I always like to say. When it's on my list, it's like this big long never ending whatever. Oh yeah, so that I happened upon a video on like failure isn't failure, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I just went because it's like sometimes it is a little bit uncanny, the things that pop up with all these algorithms and stuff. Like, anyway, it's like somebody that I know that used to kind of have these paranoid thoughts that the government was listening to everyone, and then we found out years after 9/11 that actually they are listening to everyone. Oh, lo and behold, sometimes it's not them, it's you, and other times it's not you, it's them. But the one about failure, she did say something also about like to have a winner's mentality, and this was a Miss Universe winner that was like I cannot think of her name right now, but she was like the first immigrant ever to win a Miss Universe pageant, Eastern European descent. That's my blood too, man. Anyway, strong like bull. So she's like, I didn't give up. I did not give up. And she talked about something that I recently started doing again. Not consistently. I ought to follow my own inspirational advice or whatever. The idea of I had started calling it I got discouraged of having a to-do list, because it's just like the long never ending list. And so I started writing like a done did list. Like, this is what I done did today, not what I have to do. And then I learned a like more cool neutral name, I guess, more like ta-da list. To do ta-da. That I learned from Kara Harvey, a purpose-driven mompreneur who's also really great. There's been so many great people that I've learned from this year, all this online stuff. So yeah, most of those people are a lot more like polished than my rosy ramblings. But if you do know me, that's kind of how I do. And sorry, not sorry. I don't know. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. That's something I got from Michael Beckwith on Lisa Nichols' webinar this summer. So it's been a tough year, but it's also been an amazing year. And hindsight, looking back on 2020, maybe 5-10 years from now, it's gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, that was the I don't know, maybe that fabled dawning of the age of Aquarius. I still don't know exactly when that happens, besides, the moon in the seventh house and Jupiter aligned with Mars. I don't really know. That's really worth a Google. Somebody has got to actually have that. Or maybe that song is just BS. But we really are dawning on that age. And so there's rough transitions because Uranus is in charge of that. And Uranus is all about shock and sudden change. Okay, I did it. I made the joke. I'm sorry. How can all these astrologers say with a straight, because they call it Uranus. But when I grew up, we called it Uranus. And then I just learned recently that Uranus is the planet that's all about change and like sudden explosive change and growth and surprise. Hey, if nothing else, it's a good mnemonic aid. I think I need to quit this while I'm ahead. If you made it this far, give yourselves a thumbs up, man. Go you. Thanks for listening. I'll try to be a little bit more in my next couple of videos. I do want to just put it out there, though, that I am sober. I might be a little loopy right now because it is late and I need to be in bed. I'm gonna get, knock on wood, inshallah, I'm still gonna get like 7 hours of sleep, which is fine for me. So, but it's past 2 in the morning. I just don't live that lifestyle anymore. So I don't even know, like there's no snappy way to conclude this. I think I just go and I say, should I post this? Yeah. Why the hell not? It's YouTube. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. I guess I'll sign off with my usual, take care of yourselves and each other. And I'm about to go take care of myself, my laundry, and bed. Ciao. Till next time.